It's day 2 with the LG Nexus 5, and I don't usually do a follow-up video immediately after starting a challenge, but there are a couple of things I want to talk about 24 hours after starting the 30-day challenge with the Nexus 5. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com. We're going to talk about the ergonomics in the hand, call quality, and more in this day 2 update video. 24 hours in with the LG Nexus 5 or the Google Nexus 5, depending on what you want to call it, and there's a lot that I like about this device. And I know I say that in most of the challenge videos, but really pleased with the ergonomics of this device. It feels good in the hand, and you look at this and you think to yourself, $350 unlocked without a contract, a nice value proposition all around, but you'd think you'd be getting like an inexpensive device or something like that, and that's not the case here. It's got a great feel in the hand. I love the matte touch back, and then of course the micro USB charging port down here at the bottom with the speakers. They continue to perform well. You've got your power button over on the side. So ergonomically, I feel like everything's placed very well on this device, and I like the odd little earpiece up here, the circular earpiece on the Nexus 5. It fits well in the hand. I've said this quite a few times in videos, and if you watch my videos, you know this. I think 5 inches is a great sweet spot for a lot of people because it's big enough to do content consumption. You know, browse the web, check your YouTube videos. It's big enough to do that on a daily basis without, let's say, going to your laptop or having a tablet, but this is still small enough to be pocketable, and you see that with the Nexus 5. Fits well in the hand. I like Android 4.4 so far, and you know me, I'm a fan of a lot of the user interfaces TouchWiz since, and I still see things that are missing, and one of the biggest pet peeves for me, 24 hours in, I find myself missing it already, galleries within the album. So for example, you know, albums within the gallery. I said that backwards. Stuff like that, for example, where I've got my camera images here, but beyond that, I can go ahead and select an album, for example, and I can either delete, I can do like that, of course, and I can delete the selected items. But when I take pictures, I can't group these, at least out of the box in the Nexus 5. I can't group my pictures in particular albums. I can't do, you know, for example, images from my wedding or images from my honeymoon or images from a trip that I took, things like that. And the photos are processing in the background, as you can see there. But, you know, for example, I've got my gallery images here, but beyond that, I can't come in here and say, hey, images from today, or wedding, or weekend pictures, or pictures of my niece, or things like that. And that's unfortunate, I think, in stock Android. I use that on a regular basis. Little things like that I find myself missing, but hey, it's one day in, so might get used to those over time. And of course, there are always alternatives through Google Play, through routing, through things like that, not negating that by any means. But you got Android 4.4 here. It looks clean overall. I really like the app drawer here. I like how clean, big the icons are. I think it looks very fresh and polished. And of course, you've got your home screens as well over here in the Nexus 5. Now, interestingly enough, you can see all the home screens I have here. As far as I know, there's no limitation to how many home screens you can have, or at least I haven't found the limitation yet. But one thing I think is really interesting, you can see I'm at my final home screen here. To add an additional home screen, I have to move the application over to it. I can't just go into any sort of menu and add them, for example, by pressing the home screen and just saying add home screen. Can't do it that way. It's a little bit different. A little bit, you know, it's intuitive, but I can see where people would be confused and be like, how do I add extra home screens? Of course, you do have Google Now integration on this as well. I find that to be useful, very similar to what you would see from HTC's Blink feed. You can turn it on or off, much like you can in recent versions of Sense. I find it to be useful, but I also find it to be a bit of a battery hog, so we may rather turn that off in the challenge. But otherwise, you know, one of the biggest things I miss, battery percentage indicator, but I do have this hack where I've got it enabled to some extent in my battery percentage, or my battery bar up there at the top. Kind of hard to see, but I am using that percent enabler feature that you may have seen on the internet. That feature you may have seen on the internet. Take that comment to the bank. But anyway, really enjoying this device so far. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I've heard from a bunch of you. If I didn't cover your feature in this video, don't worry. It just means I'm taking a couple of days to put that feature to the test, or I'm saving it for a later video. So don't feel discouraged if you didn't get your feature covered in this particular video. Really excited to put this to the test over 30 days, 28 days left. Let me know what you want to see covered on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, or on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker. Much more to come on the Nexus 5, so keep it locked on the site. Hit me with your questions, and I'll see you next time.